Joe on Joe is the only podcast where Joe talks about Joe. And now, your host, Joe Slepsky.
Well, hello again, everybody, and welcome back to Draw with Joe. That's right. This is Joe on Joe, the podcast, but today we're doing an episode of Draw with Joe. So if you are listening to this and you're not near a computer with access to YouTube or something, I hope you enjoy it as much as our YouTube friends will. If you are near one, jump over on the YouTube page and watch it there so you can see a full-on walkthrough of a drawing of someone who happens to be Zartan. That's right. We're drawing Zartan today, ladies and gentlemen. For you new listeners, this is the Joe and Joe podcast. I'm your host, Joe Slepsky. We've covered on this show, man, we've covered all the cartoons. We've covered all 155 issues of the Real American Hero comic book from Larry Hama at Marvel. We're working our way through a lot of the kind of 80s ephemera right now, and we're currently working on the How to Draw with Joe books. And so we've turned this into a video podcast. So if you're looking for audio only episodes, check out the back catalog. We've got everything up. And if you want to watch someone draw something fair to Midland, you found the right place. So thank you, listeners, for following along. I really appreciate it. I hope you guys enjoyed the last couple of weeks. Last week took a little Cold Slither break, and this week, of course, and the week prior to that, actually, Michael Charles Hill. So that's why, of course, the Cold Slither. So I hope you enjoyed hearing Cold Slither again. And more importantly, I hope you enjoyed hearing from Michael Charles Hill. And if you were at Joe Fest, I hope you all said hello to him and told him how much you appreciated his work. Tell him the Joe and Joe podcast sent you. So he's going to be out there at a lot of conventions over the next few years. He's, as you heard in that interview, he's kind of welcoming himself back into the, geek. I hate the word geek. Welcoming himself back into the genre, into the GI Joe fold. We'll just say it, GI Joe fold and Transformers fold and all that stuff that he worked on. So that's really great. So you're going to be seeing him at a lot of these shows, and he's a nice guy. He deserves all the praise you can shower upon him. This episode is dropping. What is it? Oh, the day before 4th of July. So happy 4th of July, everybody. It's a weird time to be an American right now, especially one who believes in the Constitution. So, that's about all I'm going to say on that. We're here to draw Zartan. Got a little snake eyes there for inspiration. Zartan's an all-timer, right? He's fantastic. So we'll talk a little bit about Zartan today. But before we do that, I'm going to talk about our great sponsors, the Movies in a Meal podcast. They are here to talk about movies. They're talking about meals. We saw the Bike Riders over the weekend, which was great. It was absolutely great. Growing up a Chicago kid, it hit all those beats, those Chicago beats. So, not enough old style signs, but there certainly were plenty. I haven't started watching this season of The Bear yet, but I imagine over this long weekend we'll knock all that out. The Bear's fantastic. We saw The Quiet Place day one. Man, that was really good. Surprisingly good. I think I had pretty low expectations. Third one, I didn't really love The Quiet Place Part 2. I really did like Quiet Place Part 1. They did a very nice job with it. The actors were really wonderful in this day one. Quiet Place day one. Yeah. They did a great job, and just the story was a little unexpected and good. Like, it was good. We really were on the edge of our seats. So it was great. So I'm sure the Movies in the Middle are going to be talking about that. Please, please, please give them a holler. Tell them Joe and Joe sent you. And while you're online following them, give me, please, a rate and review on your favorite podcatcher. And you can follow me at Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Joe and Joe Pod. Send me an email to joeandjoepod@gmail.com. Let me know what you think of the show. And also, you can check us out on Patreon and help support the show. Patreon.com/Joe and Joe Pod. For $1 or $2 or $3 a month, you can help keep this show afloat, and I appreciate each and every one of you on there. So, we're doing Zartan today. That's very exciting. I love Zartan. And before we start, I was like, you know what? I know there's a difference in these pencils. and I've used these specific, like these 2 or 3 versions for years. I never really looked it up. So I did look it up. And here it is. These pencils we've been using, uh they they start in the H's are harder, and then as you get to the B's, it's softer. So like H grades are good for sketching for watercolors because they're very light. It doesn't show through the paint. Um and they're a little easier to erase. So like we have a 3H, according to the website, they're great. They create a very light mark and they're ideal for technical drawing, outlines, light sketches, and guidelines. So that would be the one to use for the circular oval stuff. And then the HBs, they're a popular go-to for simple sketches and writing. It's often used as a multi-purpose pencil because it's clear enough to write and draw, but it has minimal smudging. And then the 2B, this is the softer texture. Darker marks make the pencils ideal for shading and tonal modeling. The higher B pencils are also great for blending and smudging. So there we go. Then you can go to E's and all that stuff. So yeah, so according to this, we should be using the 3H to do our guidelines. So we're going to do that. And if you can see go back to my camera. This is the Zartan we're going to be doing today. Let me get this under the camera there. So you could see it. This is the head-on shot. What I dig about this that they've chosen is he's not like straight on head. There is a little angle to it. I like that. He's got a nice attitude. We're going to try to capture that. This is what they call the evil Zartan. Let's draw his head, start with an oval, and so on and so forth. I feel like that's all the same instructions every time. Then you draw in his eyes, and then they rough in his cowl. If you were a kid and you read this, you would have, if you knew what a cowl was, you would have said, oh, it's a cowl and not his hair, because the cartoon made it look like his hair. We've talked about that before. Yeah, so Zartan, here we go. Let's see here. All right, let's see where's how fast we can do a Zartan. Here's our ruler in case we need it. I've told this story on the show before. Love Zartan. Who didn't, right? That's silly to be like, oh yeah, did you know I love Zartan? Like, oh, so love Snake Eyes, but Zartan was great. The whole color change thing was, that was great. But before I had a Zartan, my neighbor, Brian, had a Zartan. And I said, so we were going to play it at his house, and I said, you got a Zartan? He goes, yeah. How'd you get a Zartan? Because like it wasn't Christmas yet. It was a little more expensive. It wasn't a ton, but we were kids, and we were 86, 11, 10 or 11 or something like that. And or no, 86. No, I was 84. Oh God. Oh yeah, we were like 9 years old. So it was a little. How did you get him? He looks at me and he's like, don't worry about it. I'm like, oh, all right, cool. So this is the top of the cowl. So we started playing with Zartan a little bit. I'm like, oh, this guy's pretty cool. Yeah, he's got swamp skier, he got all that. Okay, great. Next time I saw him, is at his door. They lived 2 doors down, so we would just go to each other's screen doors, knock on the screen door, yell, hey, Bobby or Brian home. Joey, come out and play, things like that. And I got he kind of came to the door. He's like, I can't come out and play. I was like, well, what do you mean? Like, let's see here. At a straight line for the shoulders across 0.1 of the center line below the chin. So I feel like that's about right. So I can't come out and play. Oh yeah, why not? Well, I'm grounded. Well, why are you grounded? Well, you remember Zartan? I was like, yeah, I wanted to play Zartan. Let's play Zartan. And he goes, well, I stole him. I was like, what? He's like, yeah, I stole him from KB Toys at the Chicago Ridge Mall. And my mom found out, and she was like, what? Not my mom, it's Brian's mom. And apparently his mom found out, and she was like, where did you get him? Because she knew what he was. She knew that he was more expensive. She knew that she didn't buy him for him. And he's like, he fessed up that he had stolen it from KB. And she threw him in the car like a good mother should. Threw him in the car and took him back to KB and gave it back and said, listen, my my delinquent son. So let's see, the nose there, so the ears go a little bit below the nose. My delinquent son stole your Zartan. So here you have him back. Now, what I'm sure the guy did working behind the counter, he probably just put that Zartan in his bag because, what are you going to do with an open Zartan, especially back then? However, yeah, so he never got, my buddy never got Zartan. Maybe he got Zartan years later, but he certainly didn't get Zartan anytime soon. I did not steal Zartan. Therefore, then I did get a Zartan. I probably got him for Christmas, but I actually don't recall. But probably Christmas was a big thing for me. And, speaking of gifts and things, my birthday's coming up, and birthday was always a big stuff. My birthday's coming up on July 13th, and that was always a big thing in our house for tomfoolery like this stuff, like always. Like that was you got your big Christmas. We were a hardworking house, and at the time, my dad would have been the sole income provider, etc., and so on. And my mom and dad did a great job with keeping a lot of the, I think, frankly, a lot of the hard work they were doing kind of out of our sight. As kids, like, we didn't know that, and I think as a kid, you're probably better off for that. And so let's see, that's that. His neck. He really got his neck going up to us. Okay, there you go. Yeah. So for us, but it was normalized, I guess is what I'm saying. So like it wasn't, it wasn't paucity for paucity's sake or what have you. It wasn't paucity at all, I would say, but it was I feel like it was targeted towards events. So my mom would save up and she would for our big events and our birthdays, Christmas, Easter, like those were the three biggies in our childhood. So your birthday comes around, and me, I was lucky because Easter in the fall, in the spring, birthday in the summer, winter, Christmas, you get a nice little spread on the year. Like imagine if your birthday was in like February or January, you would have like Christmas, birthday, then Easter right away, and then you would go like, oh my God, you would go like 8 months without getting anything awesome. Oh, the poor children that would have had that. My sisters were fine with that too. They were April and May, so they wouldn't have had that issue. Anyway, point being, it was always a save up. And so it would be like sometimes you'd be like, you'd want something so big and you'd be like, man, Mom, I really want it. And she would say, well, birthday and Christmas present. And you'd think about it, and you'd got to be honest, half the time you'd be thinking, well, I could probably say yes to that idea. And then either she'll forget that we made this devil's bargain, or the time of Santa. I'll hit Santa up for some good stuff, and Santa will bring me some stuff. But that was always a big thing. It was birthdays coming up. Did you want a big thing or do you want some smaller stuff? So I always got a lot of GI Joes. Always got a lot of GI Joes for Christmas. Remember, mostly for some reason GI Joe strikes me mostly as Christmas, or maybe that's because that's when like the big Christmas, just like today, all the big toys come out around Christmas. Maybe that's why. Maybe that's what was like by the summertime. It was all picked over. It was all stuff you already saw. I don't know. But I did love me some Zartan. The color change thing was great. His swamp skier was great. I still have my original Zartan. I don't have the swamp skier, and I don't think that I sold the swamp skier. Maybe I did, but I don't remember selling the swamp skier. like mid-aughts when I was kind of cleaning up. I don't remember selling it at all. Because I feel like, or maybe it's that I forgot that he came with it, but I feel like that's something I would have kept because I kept, Serpentor. I kept Serpentor's Chariot, like when it was time for me to kind of make some room in my life, and get rid of some of the bigger stuff. I kept Serpentor's Chariot. So I feel like I would have kept the Swamp Skier, but I didn't. I don't know where it is. It's gone. It's long gone. So I probably sold it. I'm sure it could. I don't know if eBay goes back that far, but I've had my eBay account for 25 years. That's wild. I know what you're saying. Does that mean you've had the same email address that long? And the answer is yes, people. I've certainly made new ones, but I do have my original email address. I kind of don't see a reason to get rid of it. I use it a lot. But yeah, I've had my email account for 25 years. So speaking of that, I do sell a bunch of crap on eBay. Not that I don't mean that to hawk, but I do get some cool stuff, comic book related. Not a lot of G.I. Joe stuff, to be fair. If I do, I'll just keep that for myself. But check the Facebook page. I've been posting a lot of that on my Facebook page lately. But I sell lots of toys. So I get those from some friends. I help move them. And certainly a lot of comic books and a lot of like oddball comics. I'm going to be going through my comic book collection, which is pretty vast. And I'm going to be trimming it down a little bit. If you can hear that, that's my dog, Mary Jane. She's wheezing. She's having some issues lately. She's a little older. Yeah, I'm going to be going through my comic collection, trimming a little bit because there ain't no more room at the end, dog. So look for that. I got a whole bunch of comics up there, a lot of oddball stuff. I like oddball stuff. I'll list it even if it's, only a $5 book. I don't only list, expensive stuff. I like books of all kinds, So check that out. Links on my pages and all that stuff. But it's actually it's funny. It's the Joe on Joe shop. So if you go to eBay, Google, look up, search on Joe on Joe, you should find it. Here comes Mary Jane Watson. It's my dog. She's got some liquid in her lungs and has had it for the better part of a year, I think. Doctor says it's never really going to go away. So we try to help mitigate it. She's 15 years old, ladies and gentlemen. 15. Think about that. I think Beck looked that up because like the dog year 7 years. I think they've refined that. I feel like when we were kids, it was straight up 7 multiplied by 7, but now they've kind of refined it a little bit. And it's like 7 for most of it, but then as they get a little older, it starts becoming like 4 years and 3 years and, and then just 2 years. So she's not 100 years old. Let's just say that she is closer to, I think Rebecca looked it up and said closer to like 83. Hi, Mare. You smell? Oh, she smells. That's funny. She's in my pencil thing. She smells all the pencils. So I think Beck looked it up and she's like 83. And then Shirley, our other dog, is something in her 60s or something like that. She's like 9 years old in our years. Hey, Mare, what you smelling, kid? She's huffing. Mary Jane's huffing. But I'll tell you what, if you've ever met her, she's the sweetest thing in the world. She's my bestie. We met at a Chicago Paws, PAWS, dog adoption agency. I met her 13 years ago. And she's really going through. Wow, what are you getting at, kid? You're huffing. Oh my gosh, you really are huffing. You have to lock that box up. My dog is a huffer. She she came from a puppy mill, which is really sad and bums me out when I think about it. But she came from a puppy mill, which means, and she wasn't the puppy, she was the birthing mom. So she was about 2 years old. She had given birth to a few litters at that point. And there was some law passed in Missouri that made that illegal. Finally, you know, it took enough time, and so there was a rescue operation, it was like the A team, it was like a rescue operation put out to get all these dogs and rescue them from these mills, because otherwise they were going to be put down, because there was, like they were illegal. So I'm not saying these people were doing anything illegal, but they just, puppy mills aren't good. Always adopt. And I don't mean that in a weird, like, be a hero way, just adopt. There's so many dogs out there that need a home. There's very little reason to do, to spend a ton of money on a dog. Hi, Mare. So she came to us from that world, and she was really, really in bad shape. She had all right, so this is kind of fun. This looks good. And so this is me using that 3H, and on the recording I've got about 8 minutes left, so I'm going to take this charcoal like we did last time, and we're going to do charcoal, and we're going to really make this happen, man. This is great. So old girl was a mom. She had ear infection. Let me see if I can remember everything that she had. She had ear infections. She was missing teeth, still missing teeth. Obviously, they didn't grow back. She wouldn't. And when I do this shading, I'm going to try to follow the contour of the head to give it a little form there too, instead of just doing like a willy-nilly. I'm going to try to follow the contour to give that a little look. She wouldn't go to the bathroom on a leash. They surmised she had actually never ever been on a leash. They actually told us they were pretty sure she had never been on grass before, that she had only lived in the cage, whatever environment the cage was in. And yeah, and they had just neutered her, or spayed her, spayed, whatever, spayed, I think. Yeah, spayed. And they just spayed her, obviously. When they get her, they did that, but she had, prior to that, had just given birth, so she was real traumatized and very shy and very, not wanting to be around people. Well, that's not true. She wanted to be around you, but she was very skittish. She didn't want to eat in front of you. She didn't know how to go on walks. We had, literally had to teach her how to walk on a leash. She didn't know what to do. She wouldn't go to the bathroom in front of me, which was weird, because me, girls love to go to the bathroom in front of me. I'm just kidding. That was a joke. It's family friendly, Joe. No, she wouldn't go to the bathroom. And we were like, what is up with this dog? And then we would take her in the house, and she would immediately, she would go in the corner, and she'd go to the bathroom. And then we realized very quickly, oh, she would also try to eat it. And that was obviously unacceptable. So Rebecca and I, and we had been dating for about a year at that point, and we had moved in together, and we were pretty serious about each other. And look at that, we're coming up on 10 years. But at the time, like, this was our dog together, and I'd always wanted to get one, but I lived alone, so I didn't have the responsibilities for it. So we were able to do it together. So we were trying to figure this dog out. We're like, she's kooky. What is going on? And we realized that she was eating. I don't mean to be gross, but she was eating her own waste. And there's a term for it. It's called cropophagia. And we consult. We had to call we brought in a consultant, because we couldn't figure it out. Like, it was like a week of this, and we couldn't figure it out. It's called cropophagia, and they said very likely it was something she developed and started doing when she was in the mill, because she wasn't getting enough sustenance from her from feeding time, because bigger dogs would This is what they said they would see. They didn't know specifically her, but they would see that bigger dogs often would take the food of smaller dogs. Sucks. So MJ could never eat food, so she would eat, number two, so to speak. And so sad, really bummed us out. The good thing, though, that we learned is that it's fairly common, and they even make pills for it. So we bought these pills, and you feed it. You feed them to her, and I'll never forget what the pill says it does on the on the bottle. The pill purports to make the feces taste terrible. As opposed as opposed to what? So that was eye opener. But yeah, and it worked though. It absolutely worked. Once we did that for a little bit, she would approach it and just be like, "Whoa, what did you do? What did you do to my dinner?" So we broke her of it, and it worked. It worked for a long time, and it really did stick. But the weird thing is, man, over the years, like as she would revert, or maybe she was going through a thing, or whatever. Maybe she didn't like the food we got her, or something, like whatever reason she would find. If she wouldn't eat and we get real hungry, man, every once in a while you see her go after that when you're out on a walk. And I'm always like, "You girl, don't you remember?" So come a long way, baby. All right, so I'm going to pause here. We're going to be right back with the rest of Zartan. All right. Sharpen the pencil. Restarted the recording. I get if you mentioned a few times, but I get 30-minute chunks. So I really do try to get these done in 30 minutes. I think that's a fun one. Obviously, who among us has unlimited time to sit here and watch me draw Zartan? But more than that, though, actually, I think it's a fun little timer to see, like, can we do this in 30 minutes, kind of a thing. And I've been staying close to it. Not perfect. It's certainly not perfect. I'm not gonna say it's been perfect, but we've been staying close to it. And this one's actually, seeing as we started at I think I started drawing at 7 minutes, if I noticed, and it went to about 26 minutes. It's actually not bad. That's actually really, we'll just call it 20 minutes of drawing. So we might be all right here. I might be right on my 30-minute target, which is fun. That's what I like about these. Like, it's, the idea that it's the happy little tree. Like, how can we draw fast in 30 minutes? What can we draw in 30 minutes? Anyway, so we started talking Zartan, and then I got sidetracked by Mary Jane Watson, because she's great. But I remember, and will never forget, the first time she actually did use the bathroom in front of us, and at one in front of me. I do remember that it was me and her on a leash. I was so ecstatic. And then it was time to socialize her with other dogs, and so we would take her to a dog park. Chicago has, I'm sure they still do, fabulous dog parks, like fabulous. Los Angeles has a few good ones, but they are, because it's Los Angeles, they are not within driving distance. And one of the sweet Mary Jane picadillos that she has is she is tremendously carsick, and has been literally since it was either the first time she was in her car, or literally the second time in the car. It was one of the two, and I think it was the second time. I think taking her home, nothing happened, but the second time, because we put her in a car to take her to the vet for like her checkup a week later, and she vomited everywhere, and that has not changed in 13 years. Mary is she's a good kid, but she's just wildly it's just carsick, So for whatever reason, we've tried everything. No need to recommend anything at this point in our life. It is what it is. The only thing that helps it is Benadryl, or not Benadryl, Dramamine. That's it. Dramamine helps, and it helps just kind of manage it for her. And when we travel, when we need to travel, we try not to. But like, we give her some Dramamine and it quiets her down, and it just keeps it down. It does not make her feel better. Like, you could tell she is not in a good place when it comes to uh, motion sickness and stuff. Whatever causes it, I don't know, but it is, and it's fast. I mean, we're talking 2 blocks, she gets ill. So I don't know if it was if it was the trauma. We've tried, you know, blankets over the head. We've tried putting her backwards. We've tried putting her in a crate forwards, putting her in a crate backwards, keeping her at our feet, staring at her face with, with just giving her love and keeping her attention. We've tried like window up, window down, thunder blanket, no thunder blanket, you name it, we have tried it, and this poor girl is miserable. Her sister is not. Her sister is awesome. She loves driving in a car. And but it is what it is. So anyway, so MJ's good. And that's her story. And when she first at the dog park kind of used the dog park for its intended purposes, hanging out, we were like happy parents. We were cheering and hooting and hollering. And then we remember there were other, there were other dog owners there, and they were laughing with us. It was such a nice moment, just because it was like, we don't have kids. I'm not gonna have kids. It ain't happening. It was just, it was you get to see your kid, but more importantly, you get to see this little dude who, he's my little dude, who had been through a lot and had suffered a lot, and then you see her normalize, and that was a big deal. I grew up with dogs. I grew up with a great dog, and Boomer. But there is something about when that dog is your own, and talk about smudging. Yeah, we're really smudging on these. When that dog is your own and you're the sole caretaker, when you're a kid, it's, you're still the family, your parents, whatever. When you're the sole taker, there's that bond there. My dad's a dog dude, and he gets it. We all get it. So you've heard her many times on the show. You probably heard Shirley more. You'll hear her many times again. She's the best. And no, I didn't name her after a G.I. Joe person. I wasn't into G.I. Joe at the time. I was during some of my off years. Like I said, I just finished selling a bunch of G.I. Joe stuff. But yeah, if we were to get a dog now, I'd be all over it. I'd be like, let's name this dog Cool Breeze. Or how about let's name this dog Tyrone? Justice for Tyrone. I did when I was a kid, speaking of Zartan and going back to this, I did have chameleons. I kept chameleons when I was a kid, and they, you bet your butt they were named Zartan. And then I got another one, and that became Zorana. And then there was Xandar. And, I love these guys. And, I think I know it is. That's one of the reasons why I try to use Xandar in, when I do my special episodes and stuff, my, Cold Slithers and, like those stuff, I always try to incorporate Xandar in some way, shape, or form. That's why he was the bad guy in Columbo, because I have a childhood passion for these guys. And who doesn't? But just the idea that the chameleons, they change their look, they change, it's so cool. What an underused villain in the movies too. Like you you have him, for all the faults of those movies. Yeah, they have him take over as president, but then and the actor's great. I forget his name, the British guy who played the president / Zartan. But you got a guy who can be anyone, and he should have been changing left and right, not just show up, make like two little moves in each movie, and then all of a sudden it's played by a different actor. That's not fun. Like, give me Master of Disguise Zartan. I want that. I mean, the cartoon was just pulling masks off left and right. So good. So good. So yeah, I love Zartan. I have my original. I haven't tested him in the sun lately. I have no idea if he still works in the sun. We're gonna do that. We're gonna give a little more detail here. Do that. But I'm gonna shade in those corners a little bit to make it give it some depth. there, some depth there. And I'm going to take this. You know what? Let's use Wolverine. Speaking of Wolverine, man. I saw that newest teaser they put up for the movie, for the Deadpool movie with Wolverine and Sabretooth. Ooh, that looks awesome. I love it. Ryan Reynolds is like, they've waited decades for this. It's true. We have. I can't wait for that movie. I think it's going to be awesome. Just give me what I want. What do I want? I want to see Hugh Jackman play Wolverine again and again and again until he's 100% too old, or you find a better Wolverine, or let's just say you find a Wolverine that's more appropriate to the story. If you're doing younger X-Men, I get it, obviously, and I know this will be the final hurrah for Hugh, but man, I can't wait for that movie. Yeah. Also, want to shout out friend of the show, Dan Klingensmith. His Creating GIJOE books are great. He is running a 4th of July sale. And I wish I remembered. Gosh, I wish I remembered what the code was. But check out his Facebook page and stuff. He's running a big sale on all those Creating GIJOE books. He did 15 volumes of it. And then in the final volume, he did slipcases. So he's running a 4th of July sale to let people like me who came in late and didn't get in on the early volumes save a couple bucks getting in on it, because they can be expensive, $45, $55 a piece. It can get pricey. So he put together some bundles, and for me, like it was a couple bundles and then a couple spare ones that I needed. And then he has a separate code that if you are buying spares, to save you a couple bucks on shipping, he recognizes it. And so I ordered those up today. So Dan, if you're listening, that was me, baby. So here we go. So yeah, I mean, Zartan, fun, saucy, dreadnoughty. I think it works. The thing about his cowl that I always enjoyed was on the cartoon. It really was just solid. Like it wasn't like there wasn't a lot of which is why I always thought it was hair, but there wasn't a ton of shading or hashing or anything really done with the cowl. It was just kind of straight up. Here's a big burnt sienna looking thing on his head, and that was him. So here we go. So this is Zartan. I think his eyes. I would say if I could move anything here, I would move his eyes a little bit wide, a little bit further that way. I'm not gonna futz with them because there's too much erasure. And, I'm just not that emo to listen to that much erasure. No. I don't need to deal with erasing. This isn't going into any contests. But yeah, otherwise, I think this is pretty spot on. I also am going to say I enjoy the larger format. This is how I did CoverGirl last time. So I think that's what we're going to be doing. I think I'm going to work larger, and I think that's probably a better visual for you guys. I'm guessing, than the small, tiny one, even though the small, tiny one is, that small format is more like, it's more how I doodle, I think. But this is better. It's more of a full pager. Yeah, this is fun. There we go. So if you guys ever, what I'm going to do, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to make a mountain out of a mole, or that's wrong. I'm going to make lemons out of lemonade. That's it. I am going to give them wider eyes by shortening the interiors. That's what we're going to do. We're going to shorten the insides of the eyes so it'll look like they're a little further apart. A little bit, not a ton, a little bit. There we go. Zartan, baby! He gets a Dylan. Also, Countdown to Zartan, all time great episode of GIJOE. So I hope you all enjoyed this. Look at that. Actually, you can see Mary Jane. That's Mary Jane right there. See where my hands put. That's Mary Jane. She's the girl. So thank you all so much for listening. I hope this was relaxing and enjoyable. And thanks for watching. And have a great 4th of July. And now you Joe. And Joeing is half the battle.